everyone, it's Justine and welcome to a new video. Today is release day for Concord and 9th, so I wanted to show off the brand new release as well as several very simple cards that I created. So this is the Flurry stamp set. It has this really large snowflake with the coordinating die as well as an additional snowflake die. It has some really great sentiments in various fonts like "It's the most wonderful time of the year," "Let it snow," "Holiday cheer," and more. It has also several small snowflakes if you'd like to use those to decorate. The next stamp set and die that is available is the Happy Plaids stamp set. This comes with some solid stripes, some dashes, and then some single lines and thicker lines, as well as happy birthday and happy holiday sentiments. And it has this coordinating die that you could also purchase with it that has this really fun frame, as well as happy holiday script die, pine needles, and an acorn that has also some areas that you can flip up to make it look like a 3D acorn that has a little bit more texture. The next one is this small stamp set called Merry and Bright. It has several little things here to make a wreath, as well as the Merry and Bright sentiment and joyful. And there's also this really large Merry and Bright script die that is just stunning. I love the font of it, and I was really excited to use this die. It also has some holly dies here, some berries, and some leaves that you could have as well for some extra decoration. The next stamp set kind of reminds me of that ugly holiday Christmas sweater, the Cozy Christmas stamp set. But of course, this one's definitely not for ugly Christmas sweaters because the stamps are beautiful. So you have all of these areas that look like stitching to make a sweater or to make a repeated pattern. And then you have your Have Yourself a Merry Christmas, the cozy. You have some coordinating dies that will cut out the tree as well as one of those stars that are in the plaid pattern, and several other items that really make for a fun, unique, and more traditional Christmas card. The next stamp here is the Holiday Cheer tag stamp that covers several tag dies. So it comes with your standard tag die as well as a folding pocket die. It has also some things that go in the middle like a tree as well as a little holiday cheer, an ornament, stars, etc. And then it comes with the stamp set that has all of the sentiments. So these can be purchased separately or together. And these are really fun because the sentiments can be used on the front of cards. They're perfect for tags. They're perfect for decorating the tag dies, or you could use them by themselves. The next stamp set here is the Very Merry Sentiments stamp set. Now this is perfect for all your holiday needs. It has these beautiful different fonts on here like Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas with the negative piece being stamped. Then it has various sentiments like the script Merry Christmas, a very thin Noel, and then other things that go inside the card as well as outside. So it's a really versatile sentiment stamp if you're looking for one for the holiday season. Now, the free die that comes with this month is this Holly Jolly. Now, the Holly Jolly can be used in the die or without the die. And this is a 3D banner, so it'll be quite elevated on your card. And you can use other dies as well or stamp the sentiment on the inside. And then the last are the Turnabout stamps that are so much fun. You have the Deck the Halls and the Snowflakes Turnabout, and they show you how to line them up on the back on the guide here, and I'm going to stamp them out for you so you can see exactly what they look like when you stamp them all around. So let's get started on making the cards. For the first card, let's stamp the Turnabout stamp. So I have Turnabout stamps here. I have a video on them that I'll link below in the video description too that shows you how to set them up and how to create the guide here. So the guide is just a 6x6 piece of cardstock with an X through it. I laminated it so I could use it over and over again. And then I put the X on the back of my stamp set according to the back of the stamp sheet, and I lined it up using my Misty stamping tool. So now that everything's in place, what I need to do is I need to attach my card panel here using some removable adhesive. I'm using some Tombow Mono non-permanent adhesive to adhere this to the laminated sheet. So once that's in place, then we're ready to start stamping. The main colors for the cards that I'm using today are from Catherine Pooler, and I used the Spruce, Peppermint Scrub, Juniper Mist, as well as Twilight, which is a new color. And I use this as my palette for my Turnabout stamp. So let's get started. I'm going to cover my entire stamp using the Twilight ink. I'm going to then stamp it onto my cardstock as I would a normal stamp. When I'm finished, I just turn the template here 90 degrees. I'm also going to clean my stamp using some Squeaky Clean Cleaner from Brutus Monroe and a microfiber cloth. I like to use this because it's just a squeeze of the bottle, so you put your cloth on the bottle, push down, and the cleaning liquid comes out onto the cloth. It's perfect. I then stamped with some juniper mist and once again cleaned off my stamp in between. I'm then going to do the peppermint scrub, and I'm going to stamp it down and then turn it for the final rotation. So you've now turned it 180 degrees by the time you're finished in order to get this card. The last color I'm using is the Spruce, and that is going to just add a fun dark background. Now I have this beautiful stamped background here that is unable to be achieved with a normal rubber stamp because there's 4 colors on it. The masking that would be involved would be incredible if you wanted to do that with a normal stamp. So that's why I love Turnabout stamps, because you can get fun backgrounds with all sorts of different colors. Moving on to the Snowflake Turnabout stamp now, I'm going to show you how that one's done. So I've stamped my first one in juniper mist, once again turned it 90 degrees. Now I'm going in with some spruce, and then again cleaning my stamp off, turning it 90 degrees, and stamping it then with peppermint. Now what's interesting with this one is I decided to go in with my last layer with some embossing powder. Now Catherine Pooler inks are extremely vibrant, but they're not pigment, so they dry extremely quickly. So I was able to do this in real time, stamp the final layer in Versamark ink, and then I was able to add some embossing powder without any issues of it sticking to the ink that I had already stamped. I'm going to use some sterling embossing powder from Brutus Monroe, and then I'm going to heat emboss that so that I get a nice shiny look. It's just going to be slightly different than the look of stamping in Twilight ink. Instead, I'm going to have some shine. You can see the two side by side and what the difference is by embossing one of the layers versus just stamping it in some gray ink. Super fun backgrounds, and I absolutely love the way that they turned out. Next up is going to be the snowflakes. Now, my idea for the snowflakes was I wanted to create 3 cards. I wanted to do a gold, I wanted to do a silver, and I wanted to do one in navy. Now, the navy I wanted to spice things up a little bit, also with some embossing powder. So I'm going to show you how I did that. So I'm going to stamp 3 of these snowflakes using some Versamark ink. In order to speed things up, I ended up just twisting around my cardstock here, so I just turned it 90 degrees, and then I was able to stamp 2 of these snowflakes on one large white panel. I then added my embossing powder, the sterling, as well as the gold, which is also from Brutus Monroe. And I've been really enjoying these embossing powders as of late, so I have had a lot of fun playing with them, and I wanted to show them off in today's video. They're definitely a really high quality embossing powder, and I think they're slowly going to be replacing the ones I have in my stash now. Now for the stamp here, I'm going to stamp it in that Juniper Mist ink from Catherine Pooler. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp over top using some VersaFine ink. And that is just to make sure that I can get some embossing powder to stick to it. I can emboss with Catherine Pooler inks, however, you have to be extremely quick to get the embossing powder on there, and I just didn't want to take any chances, so just adding some Versamark ink in the exact same spot, which I can do with my Misty stamping tool, just makes things super easy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it in some rainbow embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. Now, if I were to stamp this without having color behind it, it would be quite clear with some sparkles. And so that's how this embossing powder embosses. So by adding some color in the background, you see that my stamp has turned gray. But once I melt that embossing powder, it's actually going to turn clear. And it's also going to leave that sparkle there from the rainbow embossing powder. So you'll be able to see it here when I hold it up to the light for the camera. It's absolutely stunning, and I love the way that turned out. It's going to make some beautiful Christmas cards this holiday season. Now off camera, I've gone ahead and melted the silver and gold and also die cutted it using the coordinating dies. So I now have these 3 snowflakes to toss over to put my cards together at the very end of the video. The next one is the Merry and Bright die. I'm going to cut this using some white Nina cardstock, and then I'm going to cover it with Versamark ink. I'm going to actually heat emboss this 3 times using gold because I want to create a very thick embellishment, because this card is very clean and simple. All I'm doing is adding this to a white card base. So using some computer paper, I've put down my Versamark ink, and you've seen that I've turned the computer paper over to put the embossing powder on it. The reason why is because the Versamark ink got all over the computer paper on the other side, and you don't want to have all your embossing powder sticking to the computer paper, and that's just wasting. So I'm going to take out the die cut using my tweezers, and then I'm going to heat it up using my heat tool to melt the embossing powder. So now I'm just heating it up, as you can see, and once I'm all finished melting the embossing powder, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some Versamark ink, and I'm going to add more embossing powder on top of it. In total, I did this 3 times, even though I'm only going to show it twice on camera. The 4th time I did it, I added that rainbow embossing powder over top of it, just to see how it would turn out, and it turned it into more of a matte finish on the gold, and it became very sparkly, and you'll see that here. So it was lots of fun when I melted that powder, and it created a very fun look. So it's completely up to you how many layers of embossing powder you put on there, but the more embossing powder you put, the thicker it becomes. The next stamp here I'm going to do is that sweater stamp that I was showing you, where you can put the repeated pattern. I'm going to stamp this a very simple card today, and I am going to stamp this as a border on the left hand side, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the thin layer of stitching that goes on the side, and I'm going to stamp that in some peppermint ink. The next thing that I'm going to be using are those tags and the tag stamp. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to die cut a few of these using some soft navy and Schoolhouse Red cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. One is a double tag, and then you can see I've added the Christmas tree in here, and they pop up, so this makes a really fun holiday tag and just has enough room at the bottom there in order to fit a small sentiment. The single tags, I'm simply going to line up here and add some of those tag stamps on here so that I can heat emboss them when I'm finished. So these are really just easy to create some holiday tags. Because I've already done heat embossing in the video, I'm just going to show you the finished result of some of the tags in photos at the end of the video. I just wanted to show you how perfectly the stamps line up and how fun the coordinating dies can make these stamps. So here's a look at the final results quickly after I had heat embossed them using the alabaster white embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. The other tag die is simply put together. You just fold over using the score lines that are imprinted in there when you die cut it. You can use a tape runner or some 3D tape to hold them shut, and then it closes like this, and that makes a really fun banner tag as well that you could stick something inside of if you'd like. It's not quite big enough for a gift card, but still lots of fun. I'm now going to be creating some of the final touches for the cards before I put them all together, and I'm going to be stamping the free die, the Holly Jolly with the 3D banner that is super fun, as well as the frame die and the Happy Holidays stamp. So I've now die cut them, and I'm folding over the banner die here. You just have to fold them so that the ribbon part of it, like the piece with the fishtail, is going to be glued down on your cardstock. And then that other piece that's in the middle is going to be the area that's the pop-up. So you can see here how it is folded. And I'm also going to die cut another frame in navy so that I can stick the Happy Holidays here on the background, and so it's not getting lost on my cardstock, because the Happy Holidays is quite a large area that I thought by having that just open onto the pattern paper, it would look a little bit funny. I've attached all of my backgrounds onto some card panels here. So I've added the snowflakes onto a 4x5 1/4 piece of 80-pound cardstock and mounted them onto a card base. And I have all of them here ready to go. So I'm going to finally glue some of these things that we've created throughout the video that I've shown off onto the cardstock. So I added my Happy Holidays onto this busy, fun turnabout background. And now I'm going to go ahead and glue a piece of soft navy cardstock onto the back of this Holly Jolly, and then I'm going to add glue to those 2 fishtail banners to add onto the front of the snowflake card. So now it's this 3D banner. Super fun, and I love that. I'm going to go ahead and stamp one of those sentiments from that really versatile sentiment die or stamp set that they have, and I wanted to create something very bold since this background is extremely plain. I've put a piece of purple tape over top of the Mary, and I'm going to ink up the other 2 areas of the sentiment using some Twilight ink. That's the gray ink. I'm going to then remove the purple tape and stamp it down onto my cardstock. The second time I stamp it, I'm going to do the same thing, but at this time I'm going to stamp the Mary in some peppermint scrub ink. That I can be achieved by adding some purple tape to either side of the sentiment, so on the Have Yourself and Little Christmas, and then stamp down using Mary. Just don't forget to remove the purple tape before you stamp. So that card is also finished. Now I'm just going to take one of these small sentiments here. I didn't want anything distracting too much from the snowflake on this one. And this one says Silent Night, Holy Night. And I stamped that in some Versamark ink on my gold and silver snowflake cards. And I'm going to add the embossing powder respectively onto each one of them. And then I'm just going to heat emboss, and that will make a absolute final touch for these cards. Absolutely perfect when they're all finished. So now you can finally take a look at all of the cards and all the hard work we did using the new Concord and 9th release. Remember that the entire bundle is offered at a discount if you want to purchase the entire release at once. If not, try and make that $60 purchase so you can get that free banner die, because it's super fun. So I hope you enjoyed this video and you'll go and check out the new release, and you got some Christmas inspiration for your holiday cards that you should be getting started sometime in the near future to avoid the holiday stress. Thanks so much for watching, and I'm sorry I've been away for a little while, so I hope I'm back in full swing now. Okay, bye-bye.